Hello, you're watching RTD's English News Edition, the major stories. The head of state has returned to the capital last night from Nouakchott, Mauritania. And on the International United Nations call for Jordan to open its border. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has returned last night to the country after his participation in the 34th Ordinary Summit of the African Union, which took place from July 1st to 2nd in Nouakchott, the Mauritanian capital. The Republic of Djibouti has been in sync with all the concerns of the summit. This is due to the fact that the issues of economic integration, peace, promotion, and security, and the fight against corruption, which were at the center of the debates on this basis and have for a very long time been prime objectives in the government's action. The participation of the Republic of Djibouti in the summit of the African Union will not be marked only by the speech that the head of state made at the rostrum of this event. It will also be marked by the series of expertise that through the path of its magistrate and supporter of a peaceful, developed and enjoyable to live in, His Excellency President Ismail Omar Guelleh wanted to share with other sister nations of the Black Continent the production of a dialogue component in ways and means to fight against extremism and terrorism, a practice of which is customary as part of the expertise that the Republic of Djibouti share with the African sister nations in this summit. Achieving win-win economic partnerships around the flagship structures of national development, a political culture were embedded in us is also a part of the expertise that our country has shared with the member states of the African Union in this 34th rigorous session of the African Union. In addition to his participation in the work of the African Union, President Guelleh will have been take advantage of his trip to Mauritania to hold an informal meeting with several of his African counterparts, including the host President Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz and the Equatorial Guinean President Teodoro Obiang Nguema. He also had an interview with the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Mr. Haile Mariam Desalegn. An important delegation, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Housing and Environment, Musa Ahmed, and accompanying the President of the Republic as part of this trip. The presence of Ambassador of the Republic of Djibouti, the Democratic Federal Republic of Ethiopia, and Permanent Representative of African Union took part as well. In an interview, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation talked about the most important issues that were engraved at this summit during the 34th year summit. He said that the fight against corruption and the free trade in this continent were dominated by all the leaders at this summit. The African Union has made progress in this area, especially the issue of peace between the parties in the South Sudan, the voltage drop between the South Sudan and Eritrea. There's also the question of Libya, which is a question on today's agenda, he said. Overall, the summit has made progress on major topics, the fight against corruption as well. We also discussed, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said, the issue of security and peace regarding the crisis between Djibouti and Eritrea, and we hope that the African Union will continue to monitor these issues for the Djiboutian prisoners to be released. Came back to national news. The Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received in audience Thursday a delegation of leaders of company China First Highway Engineering Company, introduced by the Minister of Equipment and Transport Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa. This delegation was composed of Deputy Director General of the Chinese company Liang Qilin, Regional Director for East Africa Wen Yinangheng, and Director General of Financial Projects Djibouti Director Mr. Wang Yang, Djibouti Representative Shen Jiak, and Free Zone Project Director as well as Technical Director of the Transit Bazuma. The Djiboutian businessman Mohammed Hassan Bazuma also accompanied the Chinese delegation. The hearing took place in the presence of the Prime Minister's Technical Advisor Hassan Mohammed Kamil. The Prime Minister welcomed the Chinese delegation and thanked the Deputy Director General in his delegation for the visit. Mr. Abdul Qadir Khan Mohammed praised the professionalism and speed with which the company completed the construction work of the new international free trade zone of 4,800 hectares launched on January 16, 2017. He wished that the company China First, eyeing toward land transport, and like Ethiopia, where the company paved several roads in Addis Ababa, construction of the highway linking Addis Ababa to Nazareth was completed. On Saturday, June 30, an important ministerial, military and artistic delegation led by Mr. Hali Hassan Bahdon went to Mogadishu in the capital of the Federal Republic of Somalia to take part in the commemoration of the 4th years of July 2018 of the 58th anniversary of Somalia. The delegation was composed of the Minister of Communication in charge of Postal and Telecommunications, Abdi Yusuf Suge, Major General Ismail Subakli, Chief of Defense Staff, Brigadier General Tahir Ali Mohammed, Deputy Chief of Staff Defense, and several senior officers in the Harpi Folk Troop. Upon arrival at the Mogadishu Aliadi Airport, the Djiboutian delegation was greeted by members of the Somali government and senior military and police officers. The delegation took part in the festivities dedicated to the national holiday alongside the President of the Republic of Somalia, Mr. Abdullah Muhammad Abdullah, the Prime Minister, the President of the Assembly, members of the government, the Somali people. The following Sunday, the Djiboutian delegation attended the military and civilian parade held at the football stadium and on the sidelines of the festivities commemorating the 58th anniversary of the Somali National Day. The Djiboutian delegation was received respectively by the President of the Republic of Somalia and the Prime Minister. The Ministry of Transport and Equipment organized a workshop this morning on the implementation of three-party program COMESA, AIC and CADC to facilitate the transport and transit system at the Hotel Acacia. The meeting was co-chaired by the Secretary General of the Transport, No Hassan, and Secretary General of Trade, Ali Daoud, and was attended by several senior Djiboutian officials in the Ethiopian administration as well as representatives of the private sector. The main mission of this workshop was to develop and implement policies, laws, regulations, and procedures and standards to harmonize cross-borders and road transport. Facilitations of transport is a priority of the government of Djibouti's policy in the 2035 vision in the scape. Transport is the economic link, which is why the government has invested in infrastructure accompanied by facilitation measures to make the Djiboutian corridor competitive. In his speech, the Secretary General, Ministry of Equipment and Transport, Said Hassan, explained the overall strategic objective of the three-party, which is to facilitate, he said, the development of a more competitive and integrative regional road transport market in the three-party region. The Ministry of Women and Family organized a training workshop this morning at the Hotel Acacia. This workshop with the participation of several ministries concerned, including the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Muslim Affairs, Culture, and the Ministry of Decentralization. This training is part of the improvement and capacity building of the Female Genital Mutilation Program Committee, and all outreach work in the field must have a monthly management-focused impact, and results-based management is a management strategy in which all actors contribute directly or indirectly to the achievement of a set of female genital mutilation outcomes. Radiology activities have been increasing at the Dr. Shakib Saad TB Center since the acquisition of a new state-of-the-art digital X-ray machine that has been in operation for a week. This new radiography device of last generation strengthens the activities of the radiology department by doubling its production capacity in medical imaging. Indeed, since the advent of the policy of strengthening the technical platforms through the modernization of medical equipment that is implemented by the Ministry of Health, all hospitals in the country have doubled their capacity to support in the production of medical imaging, and this process of modernization of the technical platform have made it possible to respond effectively to the increase in patient attendance since the implementation of universal health insurance initiated by the head of state, Ismail Margili. A ceremony was held in Demirjok on the occasion of the completion of rehabilitation of Demirjok Primary School and the delivery of materials to improve education of young people in this small village. The event was in the presence of the sub-prefect of Demirjok, soldiers of the French Armed Forces stationed in Djibouti, and the Demirjok population. The works were executed for a local company with the support of the Armed Forces and the population of the Demirjok. French forces stationed in Djibouti have rehabilitated a classroom in the small village of Demirjok at the exit of Djibouti and not far from the Somali border. The support is part of an existing cooperation between the French forces and the Djibouti side. With its port infrastructure and its new corridor, the Tajoro region is experiencing an unprecedented boom to become the country's second economic hub. Commercial activities are developing rapidly through the opening of a new commercial signs that flourish throughout the wide city. The commercial vocation of the Tajoro region is rooted in the government program that promotes and accompanies youth entrepreneurship in support of project promoters who have embarked on the creation of individual businesses. With this support at the highest level, the youth of Tajora have seized this opportunity available to them to meet needs in local markets. According to the prefect of the Malik Muhammad Bonita, the Tajora region is in good shape to regain its reputation of as cradle of the circular trade in the Horn of Africa in its role of trade between Saudi Arabia and Abyssinia. On the news outside our border, United Nations calls on Jordan to open its borders to Syrians. More with Mohammed Aden.
UNHCR, United Nations Refugee Agency, and UN High Commissioner for Human Rights on Tuesday urged Jordan to open its border to Syrians seeking to flee ongoing fighting in the province of Deraa. The UN on Monday estimated at 270,000 the number of people displaced by the fighting in this province of southwest Syria, bordering Jordan, while a man said in recent days that would not allow the entry of refugees on his soil. We urge the Jordanian government to keep its borders open and ask other countries in the region to receive the fleeing civilians, said Liz Trussell, spokeswoman of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. According to UNHCR, a spokesman under a message, 14,000 Syrians have gathered near the borders with Jordan, which is already home to 650,000 Syrian refugees.
New Mexican president reaches out to Donald Trump after victory. More with Mohammed Aden.
The United States says it's foiled a judge's attack planned for 4 July. The U.S. Federal Police announced Monday the arrest of a man close to Al-Qaeda networks suspected of planning a bomb attack in Cleveland on Wednesday, the day of United States National Day. Demetrius Nathaniel Peace, a 40-year-old American, told an undercover FBI officer that he wanted to kill soldiers and their families with an explosive-laden vehicle in Cleveland, a state town in the United States. The suspect, who is also called Arthur Rahim Rafiq, was arrested and detained on Sunday. He has been charged with supporting a terrorist organization and incurring 20 years in prison. His intention was to kill soldiers and their families, FBI Special Agent Steve Antoni said in a press conference. Born in a state, Demetrius Peace has a long criminal record, having been convicted of aggravated robbery and domestic violence. He had been under surveillance by the federal police for months after posting social messages favorable to Al-Qaeda and expressing his desire to resort to armed violence. His Facebook posts were frankly worrisome, said Antoni. Demetrius Peace called on Muslims to train in the use of weapons and explosives and to practice hand-to-hand combat. Like many other cities in the country, Cleveland, located in the Great Lakes region, intend to proceed Wednesday with a firework fire for Independence Day, which celebrates the declarations of independence of the country 4 July in 1776.
Belgium and Brazil celebrate accession to World Cup quarterfinals. More with Mohamed Aden.
In addition to bringing social peace to his country and reducing poverty in Mexico, another challenge awaits the new Mexican. Belgium and Brazil celebrate accessions to World Cup quarterfinal. The atmosphere was electric in the street of Rio after qualifying Brazil for the quarterfinals of the World Cup 2-0 against Mexico. The whole country is vibrate to the rhythms of football and samba, united behind the Celestial in its quest for a sixth World Cup. The Belgians also let their joy burst out after holding their breath until the last minute at the meetings of the Red Devils against Japan. Victory 3-2 on the wire. Belgians and Brazilians are now meeting in the quarterfinals.
This is it for this edition. Thank you for joining us on RTD and have a good night.